I would like to call the March 13th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting to order. If you are able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have the roll call, please?
Chair Holstead.
Here.
Commissioner Petty is absent. Commissioner Vikes.
Here.
Commissioner Barboza.
Here.
Commissioner Woodard.
Here.
Commissioner Twait.
Here.
And Vice Chair Costin.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Before we get to agenda approval, I would like to bring to your attention the lay-down materials. That is item Resolution PZ 2024-06, Amendment Memo, and Resolution PZ 2024-05, Public Comment. Is there a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda with the requested revisions? Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda items into the record?
You have approval of minutes, regular meeting of February 14th, 2024, and regular meeting of February 28th, 2024, and action approval requesting an excused absence for the February 28th, 2024 regular meeting from Commissioner Costin, and that is your consent agenda.
Are there any public comments on any of the consent agenda items just read by the clerk? Seeing none, are there any objections or approving the agenda and consent agenda? Hearing no objections, the agenda and consent agenda are approved. And scheduled public comment, we have none. Unscheduled public comment, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak to anything that is not on the agenda?
And if there is anyone on Zoom at this time that'd like to speak to anything not on the agenda, you may raise your hand at this time to be unmuted.
Nope. All right, consideration of the plats, but first we have Resolution PZ 2024-06, recommending denial. Oh, before we read that one, staff has requested an amendment in the laydown memo. Do we have a motion to amend that? Or do I need to read that in first, the wrong way? Okay, so read it the way before we want to amend it? Okay. Okay. So it's Resolution PZ 2024-06, recommending denial on preliminary plat, Momsen's 2024 replat for parcel merger of Lot 2, Block 4 and Lot 2, Block 3, Momsen's addition numbers 1 and 2 in the suburban residential zoning district. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution PZ 24-06? Commissioner Fikes?
I'd like to make a motion for approval of Resolution PZ 2024-06, recommending denial of preliminary plat with the amendment. Or you want no?
The amendment will be a separate motion.
Yeah, right. Let's
All
go
right.
with just the first one.
Second.
Second?
There we
Okay.
go.
Director Mitchell, can we have a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Halstead and Commissioners and member of the public. So the resolution before you is PZ 2024. It's a preliminary plat as a parcel merger. The two parcels are located at 1018 3rd Street and 1019 4th Street. Let's see if my clicker works. It's on. Yep, next slide, please. Oh, I think it might work now for me. Apologies for the technical difficulty here. Oh, it works. All right. So in the aerial map you see there, I zoomed out so you can kind of see the general area and the different zoning districts around it. The current use on these lots, these two lots are vacant. The zoning district in blue is your suburban residential. And because it's a proposed parcel merger, a lot merger, the combined lot area would be approximately half an acre. Surrounding uses are primarily vacant with a single-family dwelling directly to the south, close to the west of the one lot to the west. So I'm going to try to do my best to make this as clear as day. So it's a proposed lot mergers for Lot 2, Block 4, and then Lot 2, Block 3. This in your packet, you saw the utility lines. So in blue is your water lines running through down the middle of these two proposed lot mergers. Below is just an enlarged image of the lots being proposed. So, as noted within the staff report, that there are certain standards when we look at these subdivisions, primarily the first being the subdivision design standards. And within the subdivision design standards, we talk about lots. And within lot designs, we're talking about the arrangements, and then what was mentioned in subsection E1 of KMC 14.1.070 is where it says lots with double frontage shall be avoided. So I want to make it very clear that its code is not saying it's prohibited. It just says that preferably avoided. And I think that gives us flexibility in the sense, because there's certain circumstance where a double fronted lot may make sense, where maybe the primary access is not accessible due to greater topography. There could be scenarios here. And so I just want to be clear again that lots with double frontage shall be avoided, not prohibited. So with this preliminary plat, it would merge these two lots and create a double frontage lot, meaning they would have access either on 3rd Street or 4th Street, or both. So in that case, this is a double frontage lot. So a little bit about the surrounding areas. Approximately 2/3 of 4th Street, the right-of-way is undeveloped. And there's no building permits that I can find on the west side of 4th Streets of approved single-family dwellings. And then on the 3rd Street, it's primarily a gravel road up to 2/3 from the south going north. And so the rest is kind of treed in the right-of-way. So I'm trying to give you an idea of what that area looks like. And then there are city water lines running between the proposed lot merged to be merged. And then the nearest sewer line is approximately 450 feet away. Code says that if your proposed structure is within 200 feet of a sewer line, you must connect to it. So in this case, if this lot was to be developed, and we didn't have running sewer lines improved, with the existing layout, they would not have to be required to connect to city sewer lines. So I want to be clear about that, because the nearest one is 450 feet away. So that means they can defer back to getting a septic. Okay? So wanted to be clear on that, but you see that we have water connections down the middle, so obviously there's water connections if these lots were to be developed. And then with the existing lot size, I want to be clear that the minimum lot size for this area when it comes to suburban residential, and I apologize for not noting it in the staff report, but for the RS zone for 1 to 3 dwelling units is 7,200. And then if they wanted to build up to 4 units, it's 9,600. So the lot, the way it's set, can be developed individually. It does not need to be merged in order to be developed. The lot individually are approximately 11,300 square feet. So the lot itself can be developed if they can obtain water, sewer, and road access, meaning the road is developed. So the lot size itself is not the hindrance. So to say this lot has to be merged to be developed would be incorrect. It does not have to be merged, because we did issue a building permit back in 2021 for a very small home, a cabin home approximately 500 square feet off of 3rd Street. It was permitted, issued, but it just hasn't been constructed and issued a certificate of occupancy. So that gives you an idea that we have issued a building permit for a lot size similar to these two individual lot sizes off of 3rd Street. So furthermore, just with going back to the double frontage lot, creating this and allowing this would potentially lead to, and I'm going to slide over here, creating precedents because there are several property owners who own both sides of the lots. So I'm going to explain, and I didn't have time to identify this, but in green, so the first small green outline, it's all owned by one individual owner. So if they wanted to come in and merge, you really have to set a standard. Otherwise, if these people came in and come back, we would honestly have to honor if you're saying, hey, you can merge these. We made it for the exceptions to lots above. I searched the whole area, and there aren't really any merged lots with double fronted lots in this entire neighborhood. And so the criteria of just being the neighborhood and characteristics of the neighborhood, it's clear that these lots are made with a frontage and a rear yard abutting another rear yard. And then furthermore explaining, the purple line is owned by one parcel owner, and unfortunately the green line of the zoom is covering it because those are the two lots that are being proposed to be merged right behind the green line and the red line. And so one of the owners of these proposed lot mergers own everything in that purple outline. Okay? And then you can't really see between the purple and the green line is the blue line. And so those are owned by the same owners on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So again, if they came in to propose a lot merger, that would be another thing. So you can see down this corridor, you have owners owning both sides of the lot. And so I just want to point that out to you. I'm not saying, again, a double frontage lot should be avoided. It doesn't say it's prohibited. So with the proposed preliminary plat, the first standard is that it should meet all design standards of the subdivision. And within the subdivision design standard, it talks about the minimum lot area, the general requirements. And so it does meet that. The existing lots itself, even if it wasn't merged, it will still meet the minimum lot area. And obviously combining it will still continue to meet the minimum lot area. And in the general requirements includes the width. The width itself remains the same. This is only widening the depth of it. And so minimum improvements are not required, so they're met. Subdivision standards, going back to what I pointed out with the subsection E when it comes to lot design, and I'm going to flip back to the language of the first being lot arrangement and design shall be such that all lots will provide satisfactory and desirable building sites properly related to the topography and the character of the surrounding development. And then 2, I'm not going to read the rest because it's just talking about having straight lines and variations will run. Really, what's underlined is lots with double frontage shall be avoided. So that's really summarizing staff's analysis, is that staff finds that the double frontage lot doesn't really meet that standard of maintaining the characteristic of that. And really, you're going to be changing the layout of how you drive around through this. As noted in the staff report, by creating a double frontage lot, if someone can build on it, yes, they will have front yard setbacks on each side. They don't have a rear yard. But it also means which side is going to be the front. Are they building a house on one side and then the other side will be their accessory, their garage, and where you're going to drive down and see all front yards, you're going to see a rear. These are things to think about, the impacts of these decisions when it comes to subdivision. As well as, even though they're merging it, the utility line running down the middle has to stay there because we have an existing utility line. So even if they merge it, they can't build over it because you cannot build over a utility line. So that's another issue that staff sees with this proposed merger. So with that being said, staff doesn't find that the first criteria, subdivision design standards, are being met. And because code says when it comes to preliminary plat, it has to meet all of these, therefore staff is recommending, to be consistent with the amendment, is that staff is recommending your body to oppose this preliminary plat. And so, again, that really summarizes staff's presentation, and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Before we get into Q&A, staff has also requested in one of the attachments amendment to the laydown memo. Is there a motion to amend the verbiage on this resolution? Commissioner Fikes?
Twait beat me to it, didn't you? Oh my gosh. Yes, we have a motion to amend the title, resolution recommending that opposing the preliminary plat for Mimosum's 2024 replat.
Second.
Do we have any objections? Seeing none, do we need to vote on that, or, okay, so we are calling that something different now. All right, open up for comments. We have this item may be open for public comment. Is there anyone that wants to speak? Okay, please state your name. You have 3 minutes. Get your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Marcus Mueller. I'm the Land Management Officer for the Kenai Peninsula Borough. Address is 144 North Binkley Street in Soldotna. And wanted to just give you a little bit of the backstory in terms of how this plat came to be, or what the driving force is behind it. And there's another property owner that's involved in this, who's the buyer of the borough property. So this is a combination of private property and borough property. And the borough property was offered for sale, and the sale had a requirement in it that the buyer of the property combine the property bought with the property that they own. The reason why is that this property that the borough has originated from tax foreclosure, and the practice at the time by the borough was to retain lots that were substandard in size from a platting code, and so state laws are quite clear on how tax foreclosed properties are handled, and once a property is retained for a public purpose, it can be later disposed only when the public purpose for which it was retained is declared to no longer exist. And so that was the idea, that if we take a substandard lot and combine it with an adjacent property, thereby increasing the size, that resolves the public purpose for which it was served, for which it was retained. As part of this process, and I very much appreciate staff's presentation, really neat way to look at things here. With the process of the plat coming through here, we have learned that actually the substandard nature, basically the lot size requirements within the city are met, and so that's actually a different finding for us. And so one thing that means for the borough in working through the sale transaction that's proposed, that's kind of the reason, the driving force behind this plat, is that we can work with the borough to also resolve the transactional interests outside of whether or not, however, whatever the outcome is of the platting decision here today. So wanted to provide you with a little bit of that story, and I'm also available for questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions while you're still up there? Commissioner Twait?
So, depending on how we would find on this, it's then going to go to the borough. Borough can obviously make their own decision. We're just recommending. Is it a deal breaker for the property owner? Do we know? I mean, I know you're not representing them, but is this a deal breaker if we deny it tonight?
Thank you, through the chair, Mr. Twait. I'm not able to speak for the other owner who's the buyer in the transaction, what the use intentions are. So but looking at the transaction side of it, so the idea that the borough is engaged in a sale with the private property owner, we do have so irrespective of how the plat goes, whether the plat continues as proposed or is denied, that the transaction, the sale transaction, can move forward in either circumstance. So does that answer your question, sir?
It does. Just a follow-up, how many other, is there more borough properties in that section, or was that just a unique one? Could we see this again and again?
Thank you. Good question. The borough does have more properties that are in these neighborhoods that are of similar status. Before we do anything further with those, we'll be in more coordination with the city staff.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this? Anyone online?
If there's anyone on Zoom who'd like to speak, please raise your hand.
Okay. So seeing no one else wishing to speak, we'll bring it back to the commission. Discussion from the commission. Mrs. Fikes?
Some of the concerns that the city brought up in the staff report, I share those same thoughts with a double-sided lot, whether you're having emergency services or any kind of delivery services, what's your address? You know, am I looking at your garage? Am I looking at your front? Am I going down Third or am I going down Fourth? And then you talk about all your utilities, and so you got a host of individuals and service providers there that are gonna be kind of scrambling, trying to figure out who's what on what side. And then how is that gonna impact the traffic for everybody? So John Smith over here can go from Third all the way through to Fourth, and, you know, not everybody's expecting that, because everybody on Fourth has got their backyard, so. I guess, yeah, I share that concern with staff on that. I don't think it's the right design, and like the borough brought up, you know, it's not a deal breaker. You can go with either size lot, so. It'd be nice probably to have a half-acre lot, but you got utilities running through it, so I'm not sure what the buyer's gaining by doing this. It's kind of baffling, but that's just my 2 cents.
Commissioner Twait?
I guess for Director Mitchell, so you mentioned that 2/3 or so of the roads are developed, or they're to where that where there is no other houses on either side. Is that roughly where this property lies? I was kind of trying to gauge that when you had that map up there. I'm just curious where that lies in relationship to these 2 lots.
Thank you, Commissioner Twait, for that question. So the lot facing Third Street is not the lot directly across, but just south of one, opposite of Third, is where the house is developed. And that was the first house on Third that then you'll see the gravel path leading to it. So yeah, the gravel path, they probably could extend it all the way to get to the Third Street side for access if they were to develop the lot on Third.
And so we showed the blue line between them. That's water only? So,
Correct, water only.
okay, so they would have to do an individual septic system with city water hookup is what would be the presumed way they would get the utilities there, correct?
Thank you, Commissioner Twait, for that question. Correct. And I did look up all the building permits on this Third Street. We issued the 2 or 3, and all of them had the water connection fee that they paid, and then they got their DEC, and we did verify with DEC that they had approvals for their septic for those that were developed a home off of Third.
All right, and one last question. So, looking at it from a standpoint of, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense with that utility easement there that you would necessarily want to combine that into one property, because it would be a bit disjointed. But if the reason is in order to make this transaction happen, there's nothing saying that they couldn't then go back and spend the money to have a lot line put back in there again and sell one of the other two properties at some point, correct? I mean, in order to dot all the i's and cross the t's, this would be, not that we could say this is what you have to do, but I'm just curious, because like I said, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that you can't build I mean, you could put a driveway, I guess, across that utility easement probably and set the thing farther back, but then it would just make sense to come from the other side. So I'm just trying to figure out to make, to cut the baby in half kind of a thing. Is that, there's nothing saying that they can't then go back and re-subdivide that, I guess is my question.
So if we were to approve this lot merger, could they re-subdivide? Yeah, if our subdivision minimum lot size remains the same, because right now they meet the minimum lot size, so that's really the standards for subdivision, right? You meet the minimum lot size, the minimum width, but, so you're reverting back. I think the only thing that would hinder it is if we change code and minimum lot size in the future.
Anyone else? Okay. Do we call a vote, I guess, is our next? Yep.
Commissioner Fikes?
No.
Can I just, so let's, because make sure we know what a yes and a no are reading. Can we do that? Just make sure everybody's on the same page?
Of course. So the title of the legislation is now opposing this plat. So a vote no would be not to oppose it, and a vote yes would be to oppose it. Commissioner Fikes, is your vote still a no?
It would be a yes to
Be a yes.
oppose. Thank you for
Okay.
the clarification.
Great. Commissioner Twait?
No.
Commissioner Woodard?
Yes.
Vice Chair Costin?
No.
Chair Halstead?
Yes.
Okay, so that is 3 yeses and, oh, I'm sorry, 1 second. Barbaza, I apologize.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So that is 4 yeses and 2 nos, so motion passes.
Okay, we have for us a resolution PZ 2024-07, recommending approval on preliminary plat Michael J. Pelch, Homestead Jr., Edition Number 4, for a replat of tracks G, A1, A2, and A3, Michael J. Pelch, Homestead Jr., Edition Number 3, in the Rural Residential Zoning District. Is there a motion to approve Resolution PZ 2024-07? Anybody?
I make a motion to approve Resolution PZ 2024-07, recommending approval of preliminary plat.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Director Mitchell, can we get a staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Halstead. So this is a preliminary plat to replat a plat that's been replatted several times, as you can tell from the addition number 1. For the purpose of shorthanding the preliminary plat name, I'm gonna use MJPHJ addition number 4. There are, I believe, 4 lots that are included within this replat. Unfortunately, there are only 2 assigned addresses, so it's not a typo. As you can see in the aerial are the highlighted lots. 4 lots, and then the larger lot will be subdivided into 3. And then the 3 lots to the south of Beaver Loop will then be subdivided from 3 to 4. Current uses are vacant right now. Zoning district in this area in the bright neon green is your rural residential, surrounded by, to the east there, you have your RR1 district. Land use designation is your low density residential. Again, the surrounding area and uses, vacant, primarily single family dwelling. You got some gravel pit nearby, and primarily vacant and single family is the gist of it. The plat's in your packet. This is the submitted preliminary plat. And kind of zooming in a little bit more, you can kind of now see the 7 lots. I do want to point out, just if you're not reading it, where the dash line is, the other half is right below it on the dash lines to the right. So when it comes to preliminary plat, it says to meet all subdivision standards. Staff does find that this preliminary plat is, it meets all the minimum lot width, with the exception of one of the lots. But in the previous plat, we already granted it at a lot of 30 feet or 35 feet. It is being reduced to 30. We actually don't, while we have standards when it comes to lot width, but definition is not clear in how it's measured. Because if you look at the lot itself, it does widen up. It doesn't necessarily meet the definition of flag lot, but since we didn't have a definition in the previous preliminary plat, or previous plat, edition number 3, it was determined that the lot was a flag lot, and we used the definition of the borough to determine that. And when it comes to flag lot, the borough has standards that it can't be shorter in width than 20 feet, and it cannot run longer than 120 feet in length. Otherwise, you're really going above and beyond this flag lot that's narrow and long to get to your lot. And also the way the borough measures lot width is kind of the medium of it, not necessarily just the front or the end, because if you have not a rectangular lot, the question is, how do you measure the lot width? And staff finds that because the previous preliminary plat was approved with the reduction of a 35-foot lot width for one of those lots, staff doesn't find that the lot width to be reduced to 30 is substantial, and it still meets the definition of the borough's flag lot and still meets those minimum standards. Therefore, staff doesn't see concerns there. In the previous plat, if you looked at it, it would designate, there was language about state-maintained road and obtaining access, you needed permission from the state. A little history of Beaver Loop, that the state went ahead and brought it engineered to city standards, and then it was transferred over to the city to maintain. Now, Beaver Loop is maintained by the city. So it's no longer a challenge to get driveway permits off of city streets. It's going through Public Works and their process and their standards. So other than that, minimum improvements, you have Beaver Loop for your road access. This area does not have sewer and water, so they'll be subject to DEC for those requirements and getting their well. And then minimum lot area, these all meet those minimum lot areas and lot width as described. So I do want to point out that the first one, subdivision design standards, is subject to condition number 3, because I'm carrying it over from the previous plat when it came to the development of the lot off of Pelch Drive, that we made an exception to allow them a hammerhead or a turnaround, because typically when our subdivision standards, that when it comes into a dead-end street, it should be a cul-de-sac of some sort. So that was approved with addition number 3 plat, and I'm carrying over for consistency so it doesn't get lost. So staff is recommending that your commission adopt this resolution, recommend approval of this plat from a 4-lot to a 7-lot with the conditions listed. I am noting these conditions because I am asking of one of your commission to make an amendment, because after looking at it, my 3rd condition could be better clarified, because where's the T-shaped turnaround or hammerhead going? So I added what's underlined, and I would need an amendment, a motion to amend to add at the end of Pelch Drive to condition number 3. Otherwise, that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. This item may be opened up for public comment. Is there anyone that wants to speak on Resolution 2024-07?
If there's anyone on Zoom who would like to speak, please press the raise your hand button to be acknowledged.
Okay. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, we'll bring it back to the commission. Discussion from the commission. Nothing. There we go. Mr. Twait.
Well, I guess we need to make that amendment to put the hammerhead at the end of Pelch Drive, so I would make that amendment.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? We get a vote.
Commissioner Twait,
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Commissioner Barbaza,
Yes.
Vice Chair Costin,
Yes.
Chair Halsted.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, that was the, so now we've got the original resolution as amended. Any discussion on that? Seems pretty straightforward, kind of a, I'd be in favor of that. Okay, nothing else on that. Let's go ahead and get a vote.
Vice Chair Costin,
Yes.
Commissioner Barbaza,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
Commissioner Twait,
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes,
Yes.
Chair Halsted.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Excellent. All right, that leads us into public hearings. We have Resolution PZ 2024-05, granting a conditional use permit to allow recreational vehicle parking on the property located at 813 Riverview Drive in the Central Commercial Zoning District. Can I get a motion? Commissioner Tweet?
I would move to approve Resolution PZ 2024-05.
Second.
Director Mitchell, can we get your staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Halsted. This is a conditional use for a recreational park down at the Bluffs, a little bit outside of Old Town, 813 Riverview Drive, south of the Oilers. Currently use is vacant. It used to house that historic building that was then relocated, I think 3 years ago. And then when I did post a sign, I didn't see anything there. So they've moved all the cabins off that premise, just to kind of give you an update on what the status is. Zoning district is Central Commercial CC. Land use designation sees this area as mixed use. The lot size itself is 0.36. What is being proposed by the applicant is an RV park, and our definition of what an RV park is 2 or more recreational vehicle on a temporary basis. So therefore, anytime you see 2 or more, it qualifies as an RV park in the city of Kenai. And the applicant is proposing 5 RV spaces. Surrounding uses to the north is the Oilers' kind of vacant lot, partially their parking lot, and just kind of backtracking a little bit of a previous plat, that right away was vacated, and I believe it was just gone through the borough's process to get finalized for their preliminary approval to vacate that. So therefore, that outside way to north all the way through is going to be vacated. To the south, you have a city lot, really an eroded bluff lot in the Kenai River. To the west, you have the church, and their parking lot for the church. And then to the east, you have a single-family residence. A little bit of the aerial pulled from the applicant's plans. This is an area, the proposed location. Obviously, the aerial map's outdated because those cottages or cabins are no longer there. And in your plans, you'll see a very nice site plan, very detailed. And these were routed to the fire marshal as well as the public works director, and they didn't have any comments with this proposal. And a little bit zoomed in so we can all see. You can see the trash enclosure, which the applicant has mentioned will be fully enclosed. So that would be nice. And really, the proposal here would, what the applicant has pointed out, that they would really upgrade the landscaping. You know, when it comes to conditional use, we're looking at the impact to the adjacent uses. And so to the north, you really have a parking lot. I don't see the impact there. And this is offset further south. To the east, probably would have the most impact to a single-family residence. But as you can tell from your laydown packet, the owners and residents of that single-family residence has provided their comments in which supporting this project. And then to the west is outside way. It's undeveloped. It's still natural vegetation. So you already have that buffer. And while I do not see it getting improved, should it get improved, again, it will be adjacent across the way from a parking lot for the church. A little bit of the landscape provided. They're going to be providing a 4-foot landscape island between the spaces. At the end of the islands would be trees. Originally, I thought a lot of trees between the islands would be great, but then if you're parking, you don't probably want to walk out into trees. So I think a tree at the end of the islands is sufficient, and then providing shrubs and bushes along the ways, and as well as a 5-foot buffer, landscape buffer to the west and to the east side of the property, and that is what the applicant has committed to. So when it comes to conditional use, we have 6 criterias. First being the use itself is consistent with the zoning district. As mentioned, essential commercial. It talks about more uses that creates walkability. I definitely see that as a use that fits that. Economic and non-economic. Again, the applicant has pointed out that the improvement of this lot, kind of trimming it and landscaping it and then maintaining it the way it has in the past with the cabins, but now maintaining it as an RV park. And I apologize for mentioning that previously the use was operating seasonal vacations of up to 5 cabins on this lot. And so now they're transitioning over to RV park. Proposed use is in harmony with the comprehensive plan because it's designated as mixed use. This falls into that. You got residential to the west, east, and then you have a church, you have the Oilers, you have the Kenai Arts Center. You know, this is all where I can see it fitting well, and hopefully we'll see more growth in this area. And I don't see that the proposed use will be harmful to public safety. We have clear access. It is set back further to, should someone need to pull into it, it wouldn't impede in the right of way. And as you can see with the RV spaces, it is set back further south from the property line, as well as the trash enclosure. So in terms of access and potential traffic impact, I think it would be mitigated the fact that they kept it clear in the front. And then criteria 6 talks about if there's any other conditions that we should add for this use. Staff doesn't find that that's necessary, but there is a provision in the RV parking code section that kind of repeats these same criterias. I, as a code cleanup, will remove it because it pretty much asks again, are there public services and facilities? Will it be harmful to public safety? So the criteria that are mentioned within the code section of the RV are met, and staff finds that they meet all the criteria for a CUP approval, and recommends that your commission approve this resolution for an RV park for a maximum of 5 parking spaces at this location at 813 Riverview Drive. I will point out that I did add the conditions with landscaping islands and landscaping buffers, as well as carrying the standard RV parking about nuisance and managing it well. That's in our code, and I'm just carrying it in so that they don't have to look for that standard. So that concludes staff's presentation, and happy to answer any questions your commission may have.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. Is the applicant online?
The applicant is online. You can go ahead and unmute now. Is it Travis?
Hello.
Hello. Did you have anything to add to this resolution?
No, I didn't have anything to add. I think you covered almost everything there.
Okay. All right, we'll just leave you available in case anyone has any questions. Anything? Director Fikes? Director.
Through the chair, thank you, Mr. Halsted. For the applicant, I just had a question on is there a size minimum for RVs that you intend to park here?
Yes, the maximum length of the RVs will be 45 feet.
And would that include a additional vehicle?
So
if
that
some-
will limit. No, that would not include additional vehicles. So it will limit the size of fifth wheels. We are targeting mostly Class C motorhomes, 40 feet and under.
Okay, so 40 feet and under, and that would be the rig, and then they could still have an additional vehicles to park somewhere else on the property, is that correct?
That is, no, incorrect.
Okay.
No additional parking, just for motorhomes, not necessarily for fifth wheels and extra tow behinds.
Okay, so if somebody were to come in with a motor home towing a vehicle or a trailer, that would not be the place to park, is what you're telling us?
They would not be allowed on site.
Okay,
There
thank
would be
you.
enough room for them.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public who want to speak to Resolution PZ 2024-05? No one else? Bring it back to the commission. Discussion from the commission. Commissioner Tweet?
For Director Mitchell, I guess. So, with the bluff stabilization, this property is in that area. Is that going to be affected in any way? I mean, I kind of know what the plan is as far as stabilizing it. Do they need to allow any kind of access to be able to throw anything over the bluff there as far as stabilizing?
That's a very good question, Commissioner Twait. And luckily, I know the answers because I manage land management. So with the Bluff project, as you can tell, we own the parcel to the south. We, back in, I believe in 2019 or 2020, between 2019 and 2021, we went through several replats to acquire the land we needed for the Bluff. So this lot itself is not even part of the Bluff. And then just to give more insight, the property next door, the Dunns, they didn't subdivide their lot to give us the Bluff area lot, so we actually had to get an access easement, which we do have. So I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Tweet?
I'll throw this out, I guess, for discussion before I would want to potentially make an amendment, but I could see this area being used with several different times of the year, but certainly during dip net season. And I would be somewhat concerned. Most people do clean their fish right down there on the beach, but would we want to consider using some sort of bear-proof or put some kind of conditions as far as disposal of fish and things of that nature on the property? I'm kind of just opening that up for a discussion item, that maybe we use a bear-proof container up there instead of just a regular garbage can. So I'm kind of just tossing that out for a discussion to see if anybody thinks that might be appropriate.
No, I like that idea. I know there was provisions in there for an enclosed trash, but it doesn't necessarily state that it's a bear-proof trash. Is that, I don't know if that is a cost issue or what. Ms. Mitchell, would you have any thoughts on that?
So, okay, thinking of code. There is a code section that says the city manager can designate certain areas to require bear-proof cans, trash cans. Where is that map? I don't know. We have that provision, but we also have provisions in code enforcement. If there's excess of sewage, trash, carcasses, we have code enforcement for that. Do we need to require them to have an actual bear-proof can? I don't think so. I think we have code to enforce that if needed. So, I think the question is, are we now going to move forward, require this for RV lots anywhere near the dip netting? And I don't know whether the fence enclosure that they're providing is bear-proof. I don't know that. I don't think it would, because it's just fences. It probably can just slash that apart and get into that trash bin. This is up to your commission to decide, but that's really my comment on that.
So just to clarify from the drawing there, it looks like it's enclosed on four sides. So normally, if it's going to be hauled off by Peninsula Sanitation or something, it would be on three sides and they could pull up and grab it. So, and this might be for the applicant, but I'm just curious. It looks like it would be, I would assume it's open on one side for them to be able to dump that. maybe applicant could answer that.
Not being allowed. There we go. The idea is to have a swinging gate on the north end of it that would be open for the trash to be removed. So it would be enclosed on all four sides.
And as a follow-up to that question, was there any consideration on that kind of potential and a possibility of a bear-proof container?
Having run it as an Airbnb, as a vacation rental, I have never seen a bear on the property, and we have definitely processed fish there before. We will also not be having any processed tables or any areas for dip netters to be processing fish on site. So no, I did not consider that to be an issue.
Thanks, sir. I would chime in on it as well. I would tend to leave this on the owner. If they've got a nice fenced-in area for a trash can, it's got a swinging gate on it, I would think that they would want to try and preserve that and keep a bear. If there was a potential for that, they could upgrade their can at the time or risk destruction of their own property. So I think, again, I tend to leave that to the owner, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that at all. I guess like I said, through code enforcement, I think most of that can be handled in, usually it's a problem when it becomes code enforcement at that point in time. It's not going to be proactive, it'll be reactive, which I don't necessarily think is terrible in this case. Just a follow-up for Director Mitchell, if for some reason there ends up being bears on site at some point in time because it is a problem, can we modify the conditional use permit at some point in time, or is this our only shot to do it?
Thank you, Commissioner Twait. I think if there's enough complaint and staff has acted on it, because the goal is to always work towards compliance, right? And so if they don't address their trash and debris and they continue to be a problem, we see bear problems, then yes, I would be bringing it back to your commission to say, hey, with this CUP, they're having issues because, again, this is discretionary. We can revoke it if they choose not to comply, or we can offer them the opportunity for compliance or require them to modify their plans accordingly.
Very good. Then I'm good as is then.
Okay, any further discussion from the commission? So seeing none, if we can call for the vote.
Commissioner Barboza,
Yes.
Chair Halstead,
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes,
Yes.
Vice Chair Costin,
Yes.
Commissioner Twait,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, please note that there is a 15-day period that an aggrieved party can file an appeal with the clerk's office. That moves us to unfinished business. We have none. New business. Action approval item, requesting an excused absence for February 28th, 2024. That was in the consent. Thank you. I gotta make sure I have that in there multiple times. All right, reports, Planning Director, Director Mitchell, we have your report, please.
Thank you, Chair Halstead. Not too much to report. Thank you for those of you who registered for that Planning Commission training. I think there's only 2 left that needs to register. I actually squeezed in time to take the first course, and I found it rather helpful and insightful for someone who's been doing this for 10 years. So I hope that you get as much out of it as even what I got just even in the first training video alone, in the first hour. It just reminded you just some good housekeeping to be reminded, even if you're new or if you've been doing this for a long time. I like some of the things. I highlight a few things like public trust. One bad decision and it takes years to regain, right? And I like something about that because sometimes with managing code enforcement, you hear a lot, but I don't see a lot because a lot of people have the impression that we're proactive. And so they assume we're doing something about it, but we don't do something until we get a call about it. And so I think as we respond more and more, the word is getting out that we're responding. And I want to bring this particular situation up because we're talking about trash and debris off of Silver Salmon, those homes back there. Most people don't know what's going on, but apparently there was a cabin that has a building, no, doesn't have a building permit, and they had an RV parked out and they were just throwing their trash right out the door. And it was piling high, and someone who's driving home every day was like, you need to take care of this. So we went ahead, well, I went ahead and went out there, checked it out, went with PD, because it's out there in the middle of nowhere. Confirm all the debris. It was stacked pile high, because I guess some people don't think no one's watching. And because they needed a building permit, a week later, the owners came in for their building permit. And I'm holding that until they addressed it. And that's leverage in the same way with a conditional use permit. And sure enough, they wanted that building permit, and it got done in 2 days. So, you know, these are things I'm using the tools of what we have. Not everyone's going to need a building permit, so how do you deal with trash and debris? I think with time, we're going to have to figure out something creative, but that's just something recently. So yeah, if you haven't taken the course, I highly encourage it. It was 1 hour at a time, not too bad. And what else? My new staff is on, Brandon. He will soon to eventually join these meetings because hopefully with time and with training, he will be the one drafting these staff reports and presenting these and taking a little bit of the load off because I believe my role would benefit more in the long range planning. You know, really a focus on the comp plan and master plans if whatever areas we see, and really focus in that arena. So you'll see a little bit of Brandon more with time. And if you haven't met him, please introduce yourself if you're ever in the building. Besides that, I don't think there's really much. I know our next meeting is March 27th, but I am possibly canceling it because I don't have any agenda. I've been trying to push it off on the front end here so I can work on those code amendments that we talked about to the CUP code section and then updating the comp plan with some split zoning and developments picking up right now. I think I have 10 development applications or pre-applications, so things are going to start picking up here for my department. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Director Mitchell. Any questions for Ms. Mitchell? Mr. Twait?
Just one quick one. Is Aspen Creek planning on building their project out this year?
That's a good question, Commissioner Twait. We issued the building permit last year. We haven't heard anything. They haven't called for inspections. I know they wanted to break ground. I actually ran into him the other day, but I barely missed the gentleman who owns it. So, to be honest with you, I don't know. They have 2 years with a one-time 6-month extension, so.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, Commission Chair Report, which is me. I would just echo that I did sign in with the onto that e-learning software, and one of the questions I had this evening was I was expecting a agenda, things given out to me, or a task, like, okay, here's my learning that I need to do, and that it's all there. So they gave me a list of 10 things, and that is what Ms. Mitchell was going for. So if any of you were in the same boat as me, I'm trying to talk my wife into doing it for me, but she's not going to do it. So, yeah, looking forward to getting some good e-learning in. Which goes to next item, Kenai Peninsula Borough Planning. Commissioner Fikes, we have your report, please.
Our next scheduled one is going to be March 25th. We have not met since we were last in session.
Wow, that was the best report I think I've got from Councilmember Douthit. Nope, that's what it says in my script. I was told to just read the script. Miss Askin, may we get your report, please?
Thank you, Chair Halsted. So I'm going to go over the February 21st and the March 6th meetings. On the 21st, we enacted amending the 2030 comprehensive plan, use plan map for certain parcels from industrial to mixed use. We've postponed to March 20th, amending the Kenai zoning for the working waterfront and amending the official zoning map for certain parcels from heavy industrial to working waterfront or conservation. We enacted unanimously accepting donations to the Kenai Animal Shelter, approximately $5,000. We also increased revenues to supplement funding for the streetlight repair and maintenance budget. They're in the process of assessing what we need for lights, and we'll be improving lights on our streets. We failed to enact increasing revenues. Councilmember Dothit had put forth that we set aside $15,000 from the general fund for advertising, and that failed. We, most of us chose instead to address that in budget for each specific department. And then we enacted amending the Kenai Municipal Code to the 2009 International Fuel Gas Code for housekeeping, and revenues and appropriations in the water sewer capital project for the Cemetery Creek Culvert Replacement Project, and accepted a donation from the Kenai Foundation in support of that project. We also amended Municipal Code Title VI elections to enhance consistency, promote efficiencies, and made housekeeping changes. And we awarded a service contract for the airport security guard services at the Kenai Municipal Airport, and increased revenues for costs in excess of budgeted amounts. And then our March 6th meeting was a pretty short meeting. We enacted increasing revenues to the airport land sale permanent fund and transferred them to the city's airport fund. And then we increased estimated revenues and appropriation in the general land sale permanent fund to transfer to the city's general fund. We also adopted amending the employee classification plan for the Public Works Building Official Manager to a building official and adjusting the range for that class. And I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions? Okay. Leads us to additional public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment? I see none. I don't even see anyone on Zoom. The next meeting is scheduled for March 27th, set to be in awesome mode as of yet. So is anyone planning to be absent or attending remotely?
Yeah, I'll be remotely.
Remotely? Okay.
If we have a meeting.
Anyone else? Commission's comments and questions. Ms. Barboza, sorry.
Thank you. I have no comment.
Ms. Woodward?
I'm good.
And Mr. Costa.
I don't have anything for the commission.
Mr. Tweet?
All good.
Ms. Fikes?
Just good.
Outstanding. And I will say it is wonderful to have Ms. Askin back in our presence here. And no pending items. There being no further business on this body, the meeting is adjourned.